Matt Piscatella, he is, I don't know what his job is. I know that he works for Circana, and they basically track like sales of stuff. And he posted this thread over on Blue Sky where he was talking about hardware sales. And he said hardware. Nintendo Switch 2 finished its 7th month in market with my mouse is in the way, with a life-to-date U.S. install base of 4.4 million units, nearly double the installed base of the original Nintendo Switch on a time-aligned basis. So 7 months after launch, Nintendo Switch 2 is doing really, really well. He continues, hardware. Nintendo Switch 2 remains the fastest-selling video game hardware platform in tracked history. Unit sales of Switch 2 are 35% ahead of PlayStation 4 sales pace after 7 months on the market. He then clarifies, please note this should read fastest selling video game console hardware platform. The Game Boy Advance is the fastest selling hardware platform overall after 7 months on the market. Apologies for the error. Okay, so first off, before we go any further, I do not see the difference between fastest selling, where is it again? Fastest selling video game hardware platform in tracked history versus fastest selling video game console hardware.
He's in that second example or that second wording. He is excluding handhelds like GBA.
But the Switch 2 is a handheld, right? So like that's why I'm like, what's going on there?
Is it? I don't know. So like, I mean, I have no idea like what in terms of like, this is one of those like, is Steam Deck a console, right? Like, yeah, like because there are certainly people that only play Switch handheld. There are certainly people that only play Switch docked, and some people that play it hybrid. So I don't know, but I guess, you know, in kind of general parlance, like you think of Switch and Switch 2 as a successor to Wii and Wii U more so than as a successor to DS and 3DS. I
can see that.
I think that's true of like the broad spectrum.
Yeah. Okay. So then the next part is I constantly see people in the comments saying, well, the Switch 2 isn't selling very well because I see it on shelves everywhere. I mean, that doesn't mean it's not selling well. I mean, it's clearly it is selling well. It is the fastest. I'm not going to use the words that he used. It's the fastest selling console of all time in these first 7 months.
Yeah.
It's crazy how fast it's selling. So clearly it's just flying off the shelves. But I think that the reason why people are seeing it on the shelves is because of the tariffs. The tariffs were announced and Nintendo said, ship it all, ship everything to the US before the tariffs go into effect. And then now they just have stacks upon stacks of them here. And so, yeah, they're still selling like crazy, but that's because they shipped more than they thought that they needed at launch. That's my guess.
So I did some of like fact checking on this, and basically, if you can take the same data and look at it two different ways, and it's sort of like that quote, there are lies, there are damn lies, and there are statistics, right? So like you can take the same set of data and you can see this in two different ways. I'm going to credit one of our viewers, Aaron/Cyberclue, and he shared a video from Nintendine, YouTuber Nintendine, with me. So Nintendine takes the same data that we've seen Matt Piscatella show, and it paints a not so rosy picture for Nintendo. And both Matt and Nintendine are accurate. Even Nintendine says it. He's like, Matt is saying everything he's saying is true. It's just how you frame it, right? And so what it seems like, right, is that Switch 2 had a really, really, really strong launch, right? Their first month was absolutely incredible. The drop that they've had since then is actually historically bad. And so their December, not their 7th month, as Matt uses the word 7th month, right? So when he's comparing to PS4, he's aligning by number of months, which is a fair way to do it. Absolutely. But when you compare first Decembers for all the consoles, Switch 2 is essentially the lowest. The only console that Switch 2 beats is the PS5, which was extremely supply constrained at the time.
Oh, very much so.
Extremely, right? So you can't even really count that. So if you look at just the first December on the market, Switch 2 is as bad as it comes. Compared to Switch 1 sold 1.5 million in their December 2017, where Switch 2 sold 1 million. So a 30% drop. How much this means in the long run, I really have no idea, right? So like it could be that a lot of those holiday sales were pulled forward into that launch, given that Nintendo did have a historic amount of supply available. It could also be that all the people that were excited already bought a Switch 2, and we're just going to see this number drop further in the coming months. What do you think?
I think that, okay, so there's a couple of interesting things there. Number one, when you are comparing the first December with the other consoles, I don't think that's a fair comparison. And here's the reason why. I think that, and feel free to correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, I think that Nintendo is the only ones that launch outside of the holiday window. Like most systems ship or they launch holiday time. Nintendo bucked that trend with the Switch 1 because they launched in March. And then they continued with that by launching the Switch 2. Was it in May, right? In May, yeah.
Yeah.
Then they did that in May. And because of that, that means that, like you said, the people who were going to get it at Christmas time, they bought it when it was launching because they were afraid that they weren't going to be able to get it. So really, when you're comparing
June
what's
for
that?
Switch, real quick, June for Switch 2 release date. So
June,
we were
okay.
a month off.
We were a month off. So when you're comparing that first December, I do think it's valid to compare it to the Nintendo Switch, and it's not doing as well as the Nintendo Switch did in that first December. But comparing it to Xbox and PlayStation, which like they didn't have all those months of being on the market already, it makes sense that it would not sell as much. Now, if we're comparing just the Nintendo Switch 1, well, Switch 1 in its first year, every single month they had a banger. Switch 2 cannot say that. Can't even come close to saying that. They had Mario Kart World, Donkey Kong Bonanza. Is that it? I can think that's it, right?
Yeah. In terms of the Switch 2 exclusives, not
right. They don't have the
Switch
bangers.
1. Yeah. I agree that it's probably not fair completely to compare December to December for a lot of consoles. But along those same lines, I wonder if it's unfair to also compare 7 months to 7 months when you're comparing potentially a December to like a March, right? So like you're comparing PS4's March. I don't know exactly if those months line up, but hypothetically comparing PS4's March to Switch 2's December, I don't know if that's fair either. So this is one of those things where, again, it's like the data's there. How you frame it says a lot. I think, when I was talking to Aaron about this, the person who shared it with me, I was like, I don't really usually like fact check this stuff because I don't usually talk about Nintendo sales. I guess just going back to the root of it is I don't know what those sales will look like 6 months from now. What I know in my gut is that this was a disappointing launch. This has been a disappointing. It was June, so disappointing 6 months for the Switch 2. You kind of just outlined it. The screen has problems. Whether or not you notice it, the screen does have problems, right? Like I don't particularly notice it, but it's there. The price is, I think it's high. I understand that like prices have normalized towards what the Switch 2 is now, but I think what it launched at was high, like $50 above what I think it should have launched at. I think Nintendo's trying to push these $80 games, and Mario Wonder, right? Re-releasing the Switch 2 version is $80. And like I love Mario Wonder, but I know that folks would have loved to have seen another Mario, a new Mario coming out alongside the Mario Galaxy movie. So that's what I can say. I think it's been disappointing. So I was surprised by the big success of Switch 2 in that first month. I think I said I don't think that Switch 2 will sell as much as Switch 1 in the first year. What I think I learned from this is that there's still time for me to not be wrong on that prediction. It's possible that if they continue in this direction and don't have a lot of something to bring back the audience that Nintendo has, that maybe people won't be running to the shelves to pick one up along for these next 6 months.
What game could they put out that would make people run to the stores?
Yeah, I think a Mario game, like a big man, a Mario Maker 3 would have been huge, right? Like that, and that seemed to me like a no-brainer. A 3D Mario for sure, but that studio was working on Donkey Kong Bonanza, so that's not happening. A Zelda
or
for
Smash.
Yeah, Smash would be huge. Zelda would be huge, but Tears of the Kingdom was not that long ago. So this is one of those things where we really believed, you and I both believed, that they had a lineup ready. Like they were going to go month for month for month. I really believe that. You really believe that. And it has not proven to be true. Even if you think of not just Switch 2 exclusives, but Switch 1 and Switch 2 games, it's just been pretty lackluster in these last 6 months.
Yeah, you can play all of those games. Pretty much almost every game you can play somewhere else. It makes me really hesitant to pick up my Nintendo Switch, especially because it's just uncomfortable to hold.
I'm including the Metroid Prime, right? Like I'm including Kirby.
I forgot about that.
Kirby Air Riders, right? But these are games that it hasn't knocked people's socks off. It hasn't given people a real reason to pick one up. Games that would sell units. Animal Crossing. They should have had an Animal Crossing ready by now.
Yes,
to be honest.
It's been a long time. It's been 5 years.
Yeah. And we saw what Animal Crossing did for Switch 1. I know the timing was epic and you're not going to be able to recreate that.
No.
But there's just no excuse to not have an Animal Crossing for the holiday season of the Switch 2, in my opinion.
All right. Let us know what you guys think of these new Nintendo numbers. And we're going to jump into our next topic. And boy, oh boy, this one's actually pretty interesting. I wish Carrie was here. I wish Carrie was here for this. What?
The Xbox Dev Direct. I was really wishing he was here for that.
Oh yeah. Well, I'm more hoping. I wish Carrie was here to talk about